Oh boy. My name is Laura. I'm gonna try to yell. I always told my mother that when she passed away, I would not be speaking. So I'm gonna read it, and we'll see how it goes. All right, Jean Audrey Hollins. Big life. She cast a big shadow, and she represented big love. My earliest memories of my mother is that she used to tell me she wanted to be a movie star or a politician. As a young girl, she was a straight-A student, a ballet and tap dancer, and a big sister to her little brother, Ron. She lived with her mother and her father was a radio inventor, and he was a genius, and he built fancy houses, and he adored her. To her delight, he gave her a pony for her birthday. She used to tell me that her first brush with power and influence was with having that pony. She said all the kids in the neighborhood would come to ride that pony, and she got to choose who did, who didn't, for how long, and when. Her gift and her love of power and influence became her whole life story. My childhood consisted of my three brothers, Glenn the athlete, Tom the explorer, and Todd the shy one, and the only girl, me. Both my parents were extremely social creatures, raging extroverts, who loved talking to anybody, anytime, and they loved giving advice. They each thought they were the smartest person in the room. This didn't work out so well for my father because he would tell his bosses off. He'd get himself constantly transferred across the states with GE, and this explained why we moved so many times. I figured out. On the other hand, this giving advice and this being friendly, it worked out well for my mom later because it ended up defining her whole future. When I was about 15, our house burned down, and our neighbors came to my mother and they said, Jean, it's going to be your 25th anniversary, and we could throw you a beautiful 25th anniversary for you and Lee. And my mother said, fuck no, I'm divorcing Lee. I'm going to become a therapist. I'm going back to school, and I'm going to have my own center, and I'm going to write a book. And she did just that. She divorced my father. She went back to school. She became a therapist. She remarried her next husband, had a great marriage with Don Werflein, and she wrote 5 books. So she really, it's amazing. At age 46, you know part of the story, she became that therapist, and you know she became an icon. And being the daughter of an icon was not always easy for me. I don't know whether I was meant to be an introvert or not because my family was so loud and rambunctious. So one day she came up to me, and I was about 19, and I wasn't sure where I was headed, what I was going to do, and my mom so cleverly said to me, you know, Laura, if you go back to school and become a counselor, you'll get to talk to people all day. And if you see 5 clients a day at $50 a person, well, you can do the math. Mission accomplished, Mom. I went off to school, I became a therapist, and finding my way in the world, my mother, as Glenn said, we have the same words, she became a rock star. And from counseling, she started coaching CEOs. She was including Steve Jobs. She went on Oprah, which she loved. I mean, she was a walking resume. We always knew what she was doing. And she wrote all her books, Silicon Syndrome, Optimistic Organizations, The Costomator, how to deal with difficult employees, Same Game, Different Rules for Women, and Approachability, because you must be approachable at all costs. Her next, let's see. So my mom also casted a large shadow for me. Her next clever move of influence and power was when I was 29 and I was a licensed therapist. I had my own practice. And one day she said to me casually, "Why don't you just come and see a few clients at my center and maybe come to one staff meeting?" Well, I was hesitant, really hesitant, because I wanted to be my own person and I didn't want to be bossed around. I became a staff member the next week. We shared 20 years working together, and we definitely had our share of mother-daughter struggles. One day, after feeling extremely criticized, I sat her down and I told her how I felt. I told her I felt like she'd been too critical and too insensitive to me for too long. We had a long fight, she got defensive, and finally she stormed out and told me we needed a long break. She only made it 7 days. She came groveling to my house with a nice letter and she apologized. That letter was worth $1 million. It was so reparative. Shortly after that time, we kept working in the relationship for years and years. Pretty soon she wanted to spend a lot of time with me. And she would come to me and say, "I'll go anywhere with you. I'll do anything with you. Anytime you have a spare break, anytime. I'll do errands." I said, "Oh, Mom, come on. You don't really want to tag along?" She said, "Sure. What are you doing today?" I said, "Well, I'm driving out to San Ramon. I'm going to Chevron. I got to coach the CIO." And she said, "It's no problem. I'll get in the car. I'll bring a book. I'll wait for you, and I'll advise you the whole way down there." She did. Yeah. I felt like finally, she had become my #1 fan. And she taught me so many things. You think about, what does a mother teach you? Just so many things. Odd things, funny things, goofy things. She was a rule breaker like nobody's business. And so it was always hard to play by the rules for me. She taught me you should never be late. You should always get there half an hour early. She taught me I was never wearing enough blush. I didn't comb the back of my hair. I mean, many, many different things. And so I'm just going to remember so much about her. She was so fun. She was so goofy. And yeah, boy. She used to always say to me, "I want you to have a really good life. I really want you to have a good life." Well, guess what, Mom? I do. I've got 3 boys and a husband, and things are going good. I mean, this is, the heartbreak of the century, but I'm grateful to have been loved by her. I want to remember all the good times. I want to remember going out to lunch with her every week. I want to remember all the swimming with all the kids and the families and the barbecues. And I want to thank you for marrying Tom. He's the sweetest, most loving person. And we're glad you're in our family. We're sorry this has happened. And I want to tell my mother, thank you for everything. Thank you for the big life and your passion. And even living in your big shadow, the shadow of yours. And most of all, thank you for your big, big love.